Hey everyone, James here. I want to talk about the three mental states or mindsets that determine long-term investing success. In other words, the ability to achieve financial security. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I like to talk about the emotional element of investing. Warren Buffett has commented that emotional temperament is one of the key attributes that he credits to his long-term success in investing. So I got the idea for this video after listening to an interview in which the discussion focused on how existing laws and policies were working against most Americans. And I hear that sentiment a lot, and I think there's truth to it. There are aspects of our system that work against many people. Our health insurance system is a good example. But while the system is a real challenge, each of us has the power to rewire our mindset to succeed. That's very powerful. Another thing I also believe is true is that the ability to build wealth and achieve financial security in this country is still very much intact for many people. And what often holds people back isn't intelligence or effort at all. It's how we relate to money. And that's what I want to talk about. First, I want to be very clear about something. The most common default mindset around money is avoidance. And avoidance is largely shaped by a person's background, their life conditions, and stress levels, not by personal failure. In fact, this condition cuts across income, education, and demographics. In fact, a recent survey found that nearly 48% of people in the United States earning over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck with little or no savings. This shows that income alone doesn't determine financial outcomes. We've all seen stories of highly educated, high-income people who reach retirement age financially unprepared. And we've also seen stories about people with modest, sometimes very modest incomes retire as millionaires. So there has to be something else at play here beyond whether the system is fair or unfair that trips us up. Most of us enjoy thinking about money, imagining what it can buy and the freedom it might provide. But thinking about our financial reality can be painful for many psychological reasons. Avoiding pain, physical or emotional, is a very normal human response. Now, if you've clicked on this video and you've stayed with it up to this point, something important is already happening. You may be moving out of avoidance and toward awareness, and that's worth noticing. If you're already financially secure, this video may simply validate what you've been doing all along and offer reassurance. But for others, awareness is the first step towards change. However, awareness has stages. There's passive awareness, where you understand what you should do, but haven't yet changed your habits. And then there's active awareness, where understanding begins to show up in consistent behavior. In active awareness, you no longer avoid your financial reality. You're developing coping skills that help you do the things that build wealth and avoid the behaviors that sabotage it. So, how do people move from avoidance to active awareness? Ultimately, that shift rests with the individual, but only when they're ready. There's a saying that captures this well. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. In other words, no amount of financial advice or coaching works unless someone is receptive. For many people, the stress and distractions of daily life are simply too overwhelming to engage with their finances in any meaningful way. And I've seen this personally. I wrote an ebook called The Mindset of Wealth, where I explore the emotional factors that undermine financial security and outline practical skills and rules to overcome them. I've gifted it to friends in the past who I know are in the avoidance mindset, and they rarely read it or apply it. Not until they decide they're ready. And being ready means that they have moved from avoidance to awareness. Let me use a simple analogy to explain this. Imagine a cluttered room. Avoidance is living with the clutter and telling yourself you'll deal with it someday, maybe next weekend. But one day you can't find something important and you get frustrated. Perhaps that frustration is the trigger that moves you into passive awareness, that realization that decluttering would be a good idea. You might even read some articles or watch videos about it. But nothing changes until you reach active awareness. That's when you actually clean the room and you put in systems to keep it organized. So, once you've experienced a clean, functional space, it's very hard to return fully to avoidance. We already know, we've learned that there is another way, we enjoy that other way, and the people that are in active awareness are willing to commit to the steps that are necessary to keep that space relatively uncluttered. Money works much the same way. Before I wrap up, there's one group worth mentioning, the innate mindset. These are people who seem to have a natural, intuitive understanding of money, patience, and the concept of compounding from an early age. Warren Buffett is a classic example. This trait is rare and it's not a realistic model for most people. For the vast majority of us, financial progress comes from moving out of avoidance and into active awareness. If I had to guess, I'd say the majority of people spend most of their time in an avoidance state of mind. A smaller group reaches awareness, and a smaller subset of that group reaches active awareness, where their state of mind functions in an active awareness mindset. And the innate group is probably in the single digits. And again, I'm not making a judgment, I'm just making an observation about how psychology tends to work. So, if we get back to the title of the video, are the cards stacked against us? In some ways they are, but in many ways it's our psychology, not just the system, that works against wealth accumulation. The good news here is that psychology can be understood and worked with. It may not be easy, but it is realistic. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What role do you think emotional temperament plays in financial success? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.